Well, hello. It's Beth Ann from the van, and as you can tell from the outside window, it's sunset. But I've been really thinking today a lot about my worldview and some of the basics and how I got there, because what I would love for people to start doing is start questioning everything like I did, start pondering and wondering, like I talked about the things that I talk about, and see if their conclusions match mine or don't. And if it doesn't resonate, then move along, because there are many, many roads and paths to um, self knowledge and, um, self knowledge and balance. Um, I just think that there's so much tied into the systems of patriarchy, imperial capitalistic colonization, and did I say patriarchy? And colonization, and my religious beliefs. So I think it's important here at the beginning, because this is still the beginning of this channel, to kind of talk about what those things mean, so we're all on the same page. But I don't want people to memorize this stuff or do exactly. I want people to use the information that they hear as a springboard of investigation for themselves. Because I think once you start seeking the answers, the answers find you. That's a quote that I've been really carrying around for several years. What you are seeking is seeking you. What you are seeking is seeking you. And that's from, I believe it's at the Ladies Speech Experience, back when they were on Instagram. But I think it's in our boxes. Never mind. Off top. Yeah, sometimes I get off topic. Okay, so with my worldview, I think that if more people thought along the same lines, had the same ideas about the basics that we really don't know that much about, that's why there's room for conjecture and theories, which is what I'm presenting to you. This is my theory of existence, my theory of life, my theory of all the things. Like I said in my last video, I really believe that whatever the source was split themselves into two, became the finite and the infinite, and life, us, is what's in between them. That's why we're stardust and magic, because the infinite is representative, like more antimatter, and the finite is more matter. That's the physical. Like, that's why I believe that the arts are so important in creating, because that keeps us in touch with our divinity, and it helps to strengthen the bond between our spirit and our body. And our spirit is more like the essence of us that includes our emotions and our intelligence and all the things of the mind, our intuition, all the things that aren't physical, that aren't body. Okay? That's the infinite. Everything that is physical, this is all finite, obviously, because we all die and we go back to dust, right? So that's the beginning. Okay? And I don't know all the steps from that point or time or whatever to the point we are now. I don't have any ideas about that. I was given a revelation of the creation of the creation of the universe, in a vision. I was a wide awake, like years ago, like probably 2018. And that's what I see. Like, I still see that it was nebulous, looking like some of the pictures of the universe, but without stars, just colors and motion, right? And then I saw that come together, form, kind of like when you see cells going through mitosis, and they do the things with their sarcomeres, and well, anyway, it was like this, and it came together, and there's a big bang, and then the physical universe that we exist in was there. Okay, I use a lot of biblical references because as antiquity literature, it has its own wisdom. I'm not the first person to think these thoughts, because there is nothing new under the fucking sun, right? I'm not the first person. And when the author was telling their theory of the creation of the earth, they said, the writer said, and it was without form and void, which is why, because, without form, there was no matter, and it was void, meaning there was no life there. There was no, and whatever the force was that made the Big Bang. Okay, yeah, just take the Bible for what it is. It is antiquity literature. It was recorded as historical and fiction to help them how they explained how they understood the world to be. Because, and I think I'm here to present the next step. Like, I didn't quite have it right. Look at what you've done to the earth. You fucked it up. So let's go with something different. So here's something different. And this is why it sounds all weird, and that's why I really don't care. But that's also how I can understand that the mental health diagnoses can be verified with some of this stuff. I don't, that's another topic. That's a topic for another day. I have lots of thoughts about that. But so now that we've gone from the Big Bang to where we are, and here we are on the earth, they say that humans have been around for millions of years, yes, and we've been evolving, and the last 2,000 years, ever since Jesus, who I believe has existed as a person, he started the first love death cult. Because his only 2 commandments was love your neighbor as yourself and love the Lord your God with all your heart. Like, that was his teaching. Like, love each other, love God. And although he was killed as a political figure, because the Jews didn't want him, no, it's a lot of stuff. Go look it up for yourself. I don't have to tell you everything. So anyway, yeah, so Jesus understood his divinity in the same way that I understand my divinity. But he didn't take it far enough to look a little bit farther outside from himself. And that's why his movement is stagnant and it's been corrupted and is horrible. There has to be a new movement. There has to be a new way of doing things, of thinking about how things exist and why. Because those are the only things that are going to break the systems of patriarchy, colonization, and Christian beliefs. It's not just Christian, it's all religious beliefs. I should come up with something like, I don't know. But since I was a Christian, that's my default. I just go there. But I believe it to be true for all religions and practices, whether they're hedonistic, paganistic, or theistic, or anatheistic, or, whatever. It doesn't really matter. Just because there is a theistic is what's the problem. There is no, I referred to him as a father God for a long time. Before, I still had him as my idea of God, right? It was the father God. The father God that loved me and protected me and took care of me my whole life and has blessed me and led me to all the great things and places I've been in my life. That was the father God. So most religions here on the earth have some kind of deities that are responsible for them, but that's not in my new system. My new system is we are all the deities. We are all divine because we are the combination of whatever the source was when it came back together and took the matter and the antimatter and the finite and the infinite, and they put them back together and gave us this existence called life. And that's where we are. We're in life. And when we balance our finite with our infinite, everything levels up. The earth won't be being murdered, and we won't hate each other and have all these weird thoughts about each other about who's right and what's wrong and what doesn't exist and what doesn't exist. And when I say I feel like I have the answers, I really do. And I break it right down to the finite and the infinite. And the motivations that came from one of those three systems that, if there were more, I missed it. Like, I've been living a 3D life. 3 is like a really special number to me. I like to say things in series. It was 3 years that I was just whatever. So anyway, so my 3D life, I don't know what the 4D, and I'm not seeking it. I'm not seeking to know it. I don't want to. I just getting all the information about the 3D life nearly broke my sanity. It did for a while, but I was able to, through pharmaceuticals and stuff and therapy, put it all back together. So if you can believe that matter and antimatter came together to be this, then you believe that whatever that source was, whatever that divinity, the stardust and the magic that came together, if you understand and believe that you are that stardust and magic, and without that, life would not exist, because we are physical and we are mental, or in the head. We're in our head and we're outside of our head. It's all the head stuff that is the infinite stuff, and it's the energy cord that connects us to the universal consciousness is intertwined from those two things, and it goes to the universal consciousness, and that's where the source is returning to, and that's where the idea of heaven comes from, because heaven is whatever you want it to be, whatever you imagine it to be. That's what it is, because that's your belief. And that's the way it works. It's your belief. See, all this shit's my belief. It doesn't have to be your belief, but I hope it makes you start thinking about things in a different way. That since we are all from the same material, which has always been true, obviously, but I want to bring it closer. We're all made out of the same material. That means we're all divine, and that divinity is proven by our acts of creation. We create life, we create art, we create war. We do those things. Okay? That's how I know we're divine. Because I have half the spark of life within me. In the spermatozoa, because I have an egg, or I did. I don't know. No, they're gone. They were taken out surgically. But in the so the ovum has half the spark of life, and the spermatozoa has the other half of the spark of life. Maybe, or maybe that's just to make half of what you need. It's still the finite, because it's still the physical. The infinite doesn't come in until the breath of life is taken. When we take that first breath, that's when we are imbued with what we are. That's why it's so often called the breath of life, because it literally brings life to that piece of flesh that ain't nothing. It could be anything or nothing. It is anything and nothing at the same time. Unless it can take a breath, we can breathe in, breathe out. It's just a body. It's just flesh. It's dust that hasn't gotten all the way to dust yet. We're all that. Maybe that's enough. I blinked out. So the infinite is everything in our head. The finite is anything that's physical. And once we start seeing that we all carry that, we all share that infinite, finite coming together. We all share that experience. We all share the universal consciousness. Some of us are more in tune to it than others. Some of them don't call it the universal consciousness. They call it intuition, or whatever. They can call it whatever they want, but it's whatever you hear in your head that's not in your own voice is probably universal consciousness. Well, I already talked about my three voices. It's the one that it's like the little person in white saying one thing that's all for the infinite good, and then there's the little one in red over here talking about. So yeah, but okay, so I have those two voices, and the one of reason that's in the middle that is usually the best choice, or usually the choice that leads to the best outcomes, because not everything leads to terrible things. If you're not making the best choice, it's okay. The algorithm is set up for our success. You gotta learn how to game the system, because it's a game. It's like that's how I relate to it. Like so back in the day they wrote about like gods and goddesses and what. I think of things as in tech, like computers or a game or something like that. So I make a lot of references like that. So if you don't understand, put it in the comments. I'll try to answer it. But yeah, so I hope that makes it more clear about, because everything else is going to kind of come down to this or point back to this. That really informs. So there's the finite, which is attached to everything physical, and the infinite, which is attached to everything metaphysical. That's what I just put one term, metaphysical, to mean what I said before. Our essence, the wisdom that we carry, the emotions that we feel, the creativeness that causes our hands to make, and our mouths and our bodies to make art. All that stuff is the infinite. And once we really start balancing, because it's like we've been swinging back and forth between these two, and we've really been on this finite kick for like thousands and thousands of years with all the trying to be conquerors and all this shit. We need to go back, but we want to stay in the middle. We don't need to go all the way over here, which is all everything is going to be about learning and knowledge, and we're going to ignore our physical body, and we'll just all be sitting around being brains or something. I don't know. So in the middle, we got to stay in this middle part and experience as much as we can, because that's the purpose. That's the purpose of life. It's just experience. And if people can exist knowing that in a way that's meaningful to them, do that. And you make choices towards that. We've talked about that before. So start looking for indications of the way that you have been fostering the infinite in your life, and think on those times and how you felt and what kind of connections you made and so on and so forth. I think that's important in the self-reflection. Because if we're going to change, we have to do different things, right? So let's do that by start recognizing things not as good and evil, because they both have to exist for there to be balance. So we got to get back to the balance. That's why I say things are finite or infinite, because there's nothing inherently bad about any of this stuff, about anything that we experience. It's just the conditioning, the, colonization, and the whatever Christian faith does to you. Christianity, I guess, it's just Christianity. So yeah, you gotta start wondering why you think the things you do, and think of it in terms of finite and infinite rather than good or bad or positive or negative or whatever. Just, okay, what's the finite? What's the infinite? What would be a more balanced situation? And there you go. I hope this makes something click in somebody's head that makes them, that helps them along the path of the life that they want. So there you go. So thank you. It's Beth Ann from the van. Any questions? Anything you want me to address specifically? I was diagnosed with ADHD, and so I do understand that I rabbit trail, and that's why sometimes I cut off sentences. I also do that because my brain is working faster than my mouth. But, and I'll stop, and I'll just try to go back. I'm always trying to stay in the topic, so apologies when I wander around for a little bit. But, maybe somebody needs to hear that. Maybe it'll make somebody else's day. I don't know. I love you because I love me. And you're important because you have the breath of life. For no other reason. You're important because of that. And you're perfect the way you are. Because eventually I'm going to talk about what the balance looks like in real life. And in the systems, and how to break the systems, and the different way of thinking about things. Especially when it comes to patriarchy and heteronormativity. So, heteronormativity is a curse. It's literally a curse that humanity has put on itself. And, but we'll talk about that sometime. I love you. Bye.